Hello and welcome to Dice Punks, a tabletop role-playing podcast where we focus on playing full campaigns in less well-known systems. This week, with more space plates cyber spinning than ever before, the Frontispiece Four and their friends make their attempt to take Overthree to the station basements for what they hope will be a conversation. Hello and welcome. I'm Adam, your friendly neighborhood game master, and joining me are...
I am Drew, and I'll be playing Cato Burke, who is continuing to have a series of weird ones, as are we all.
Hi, I'm Robin, and I'll be playing Callisto Armitage, but that's officer to you unless your name is Ben Lurie.
Hi, I'm Des, and I'll be playing Matchstick, who is not where they ought to be.
Hello, I'm Nick, and I'll be playing Laser Raven, a half-demon, half-divine demiurge who has 20 levels in Fighter, 20 levels in Rogue, and 30 levels of Wizard. Or, if Adam won't allow that, then I'll play Ing, a drone operator.
Laser Raven? Oh.
Laser Raven will return.
Yeah.
So, this Metal Gear Solid villain that you have instantiated is going directly into the NPC reference. Here it goes.
Oh
no. I have spelled laser with a Z here.
Oh yeah, that's how it's spelled in my notebook.
Perfect. I could tell just from the way you said it. All right.
Great articulation.
Well, sincerely, thank you, players. Let's get right into it with our recap of last time, courtesy this time of Cato.
The question was, how do we move Overthree, and what do we hope to gain by doing so? And afterward, that was another question. We wanted to decipher or devise an angelic language. We wanted to prepare for contingencies. We wanted to make an ally of an utterly alien intelligence. And none of that really mattered for the moment when Byrne disappeared. Packed to go, apparently, and went. Meanwhile, Cal still had to do their job, and I don't know this, but grief cracks the fourth wall, so did Byrne. Covering the tracks for a friend who defaced a mural, revenge vowed, L4 disaster, protesters / musicians / rioters / thieves, a slag pie show. Everyone doing their jobs, me included. We prepared for this operation with Overthree, prepared to confront the unknowable, tracking devices, communication with non-human machines, communication with non-machine animals, with dreamers, with people who've tried communicating with dreamers before and failed, Bronwy making sure we don't fall apart, Prolix as ever, Gorister trying to reverse engineer Prolix's collar, Apatia preparing for the possibility of revelation. But I, for one, am having a hard time entirely focusing. Strictly caring. Coffee in hand at the frontispiece, I notice an IMX drone hovering outside. I walk outside to meet it. It's not moving. It's not moving. It's not moving.
Marvelous. I mean, not the IMX drone being there, but your recap was marvelous. The only thing that I need to sort of expand on from that recap is Cato specified there a mural being defaced. That is much more specific than the information that we had from last time. The phrase, the term used was memorial, and Allie, who got the threateningly worded messages, maintains that she didn't deface anything, to her knowledge. So there is a little bit of a mystery here, at least potentially. But
Thanks for that
otherwise-
correction. It's not actually clear to me how I know any of this, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's both in character and out of character. I guess I always assume that what's happening in these in character recaps is sometime after the end of the campaign, the characters are attempting to recap specific sections of their lives for some audience, collective memoir audiobook, if you will. So,
That makes all of my recaps from the previous campaign retroactively from a God's Eye view, or most of them, a good number of them. That's complicated. I will be.
This also means that we found Dosk.
Whoa! I'm gonna be thinking about this.
Or that whoever's making the audiobook found Dosk.
Ominous. I approve.
So, to get into it, I will pick up with Kato and the IMX drone momentarily. Before we start there, specifically, just to kind of set the timeline straight here, I believe this is taking place on the morning of Tuesday, February the 4th, at the start of business. The various group and personal preps for the Overthree operation have overwhelmingly been completed. Though the larger part of the group won't know that burns have been completed until they check the sort of shared folder for information and materials. And as is the case with prep, we sort of abstract the results of the efforts until they are needed in the actual offing, so to speak. I think,
Also,
yes.
I have marked myself as on PTO in the Frontispiece calendar.
I have noticed this, and my reaction was,
Do you inform the rest of the group?
yeah. You see an image of the properly filled out PTO calendar, a screen grab comes through the group chat.
I send back a monocle emoji.
Oh boy.
And then I guess after a beat, I send the question, and that means
It means they're coming back, or it means they're not.
you don't get a response.
Seemingly appropriate. Before we get directly into the IMX drone at the door, Kato, if you haven't already, you received 2 cash at the beginning of a session. We have been less diligent about rolling to see if you lose cash at the end of a session, because usually our sessions are ending in, a little bit of time pressure, but I won't retroactively sort of necessitate that roll here, but we'll try to make sure we do it at the end of this session. I also want to very quickly circle back with Ing, who has the surveillance module and is trying to monetize this information with the help from Burn and Kato. Obviously, Burn's help front-loaded, shall we say, in this period. And one of the things that I wanted to address here, this surveillance module collects data. It does not really discriminate, and so you end up with a lot of civilian personal information and communication. I'm assuming, based on what I know of Ing, that this is not stuff that you are trying to sell, but it does kind of give you pause. You are a kind of local digital panopticon when you deploy this hardware. And it feels weird. You do have to sift through this information to find the stuff that you want to sell and that might actually sell. So it's not like you can reasonably ignore the stuff that is personal and sometimes even potentially like sensitive. That said, in the time frame that this has been going on, you have managed to sift out what you're willing to sell, and I'd like for you to roll a d6 so that we can see how much cash you get from it.
I'm going to roll a golden die. I get a 5.
Okay, so you're going to get 2 cash.
Yay.
Cal,
And point of order, my 2 cash is per session or per mission?
session.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we have been negligent on a few scores. All good.
Yeah, I feel I am telling myself that forgetting to roll for losing the cash is balancing out forgetting to get it at the beginning of sessions, but
Since it is specifically small business owner as an asset that is giving this to me, I'll say sure. Yeah.
Cal?
It's not often that I get the opportunity to be truly slimy. Am I aware that this collection of information is occurring and how much data it actually has?
That is entirely up to Ing.
I'll say yeah, absolutely.
Can I have access to it?
Yeah, 100%. I trust Cal.
Excellent, thank you. Dez's face.
Don't trust cops, kids.
I'm not going to be using it except for persons of interest, which is a flexible term.
Sure.
Oh, well, in that case.
That doesn't help
Mhm.
any.
So, finally picking up with where we left off with Cato. Cato, you have sort of gone into the business area of the frontispiece with your coffee and then checked before you're opening the door and see this IMX drone facing your door outside, just still and quiet. And that's where we pick up.
I say, shit. I open the door. I walk outside. Look at the drone. I assume it does not move.
It doesn't, but the display lights up. You can think more of like kind of a cyberpunk full color version of if anyone's familiar with the cowboy robots from Fallout New Vegas, sort of like a rectangular screen with sort of a little illustrated face. It doesn't animate in real time. The screen comes to life, displaying sort of a template face, mostly inert, and a simulated voice rings out from the IMX drone that says, "Good morning, business owner. IMX drone serving PSS has detected potentially dangerous network traffic from your location. Please allow us to search the premises for any dangerous technology."
I instinctively try to message Burn to lock the place down. And when it bounces, I say, shit.
Please speak more clearly so our language parser can understand your answer.
Good morning.
Good morning, business owner. Contraband transmissions have been detected from your location, and for the safety of all customers and employees, IMX, by way of PSS, by way of IMX, is requesting entry to your premises to search for dangerous technology. Your safety is our main concern.
Have your concerns included getting a warrant?
No warrant has been issued at this time. Requesting warrant.
I take a sip of coffee.
Warrant request submitted. May we search your premises while we wait for the warrant request to be processed?
No.
We are sorry to hear your answer is, and then your own voice, no.
It's a devastating impression.
We are concerned for your safety, the safety of your customers, and the safety of your employees. Cato Burke. But the warrant process shall be honored, and you will be notified if it is awarded to PSS to search your premises. Have a nice day. The screen goes dark. The IMX drone does not move.
Yeah, have a nice day. I go inside. I message the group, let them know what's going on. Let them know that they haven't been let in, but they're likely to be back.
So, Adam.
Mhm.
The extent of the previous standing deal with the frontispiece was that I would look the other way should there be any reports or anything of that matter of note coming through PSS systems.
Mhm.
I imagine this requires me to have something notifying me if something comes through PSS systems.
Yeah, so you have essentially been able to set up alerts, right? You don't get notified of everything that comes through the system, but you've been able to sort of set up so that if certain things come through the system, you are notified. And so approximately 5 minutes after this interaction, you will get the little notification that like
Okay.
the frontispiece, their address has been associated with a request for a search warrant. That is, I mean, the process for this, and Cal, you would know this, but have to share the information to everybody else if you want to, is that it does actually have to go through a court, right? Like it is not a particularly like speedy, expedited process. It is a functionality in these drones, so you surmise, mainly to be used as like an intimidation tactic. Even if the warrant does get approved, it's likely to take more than a week.
Mm-hmm.
Don't talk to cops, kids. I do. As I'm walking back into the frontispiece, I am singing a little song to myself and going, "Don't talk to cops, kids. I don't talk to cops, kids. I don't talk."
You probably, not even probably, you get a text message back saying, I'm going to work on it for my end and do what I can. Open to advice on how to avoid attracting more suspicion and doing so, considering the circumstances.
They specifically said contraband network traffic. I always said this place would fall apart in a day without. But I thought it was like 30% joking.
I'll send all the paperwork your way too, so you can look at the details in advance of anything passing through the courts.
Appreciate it. Not a bad idea to have a friend who's a cop, kids, if you can pull it off.
Now, Cato, you do very shortly get an automated message from PSS's sort of like do not reply email address that sort of reads pretty interestingly, because it is very, very careful not to actually threaten you. But it does say, "Dear Mr. Burke, we are saddened to hear that you have turned down our offer of a safety inspection via one of our drones. This inspection was intended for the safety of yourself and your employees, and having turned it down, we cannot guarantee your safety should this illicit network traffic lead to harm to either your bottom line or your body. Please reconsider. In the meantime, we will keep you apprised of all progress on requesting and receiving a search warrant. Have a nice day. PSS."
A screenshot of this goes to the group chat.
You get an eye roll emoji.
Now, Cal, you will actually also... you haven't read hundreds of these, but this isn't the boilerplate. This is...
Oh.
Actually,
eye roll emoji retracted.
Yeah.
Monocle emoji returns.
It is, after all, bespoke, not quite threats.
Yeah, friendship ended with eye roll emoji, new best friend, monocle emoji. Yeah, this is overlaps with the boilerplate in certain phrasings, but this appears to be something that someone at PSS has gone in and written to match the tone of the automated messages, or else it's another template that they keep in their back pocket that you've never seen before.
Interesting. Okay. I am going to notify Cato of that and send the boilerplate messaging. And as soon as I hit send, I'm going to bring Ramirez up to date.
Okay.
With the request of, this has attention on it, and clearly someone is adjusting our settings to add an extra layer of intimidation. Any advice on making this particular warrant disappear in a way that's less detectable than my usual method?
Abstracting a little bit, it takes Ramirez a bit to get back to you, but when he does, his response is basically, ooh, see, if you do anything in particular here, that brings your, beat under scrutiny, and you probably don't want that. But he will do his best to gum up the works in plausibly deniable ways, though he can't make promises. It will depend on how much of Tupper's personal attention is on this, which he currently does not have any real indication of.
I send my gratitude.
He replies that he accepts gratitude in the form of beer.
Well,
It can be microwaved.
next several rounds of non-microwaved beer are on me. Though the non-microwave part is obviously not in the message.
Sure, yeah.
I let him know that this is relevant, though not directly to the ongoing situation.
He indicates, acknowledges this information, as well as your promise of, the next beers on you, and basically is like, all right, to work covering your tracks, with a, I guess probably he uses the wink emoji for this.
Awesome. I send back the tear laughing emoji and footsteps emoji. If they're whatever that would look like, the whatever shoe thing is. I have officially exceeded my knowledge of the emoji offerings.
I mean,
Don't
to be
at
fair,
me.
there are just a lot of them these days.
There's emojis for everything. So we did get a fantastic suggestion too, which is uploading all of this information to the Revenant per Des in chat. Which
you don't have a direct line.
No. I'm going to see if I can figure out a way to put it across their notice, though. See if there's any look on Bacon for anything pertaining to the previous two attacks in particular, and see if I can find anything on them in PSS networks, and also my new shiny network, along with my other usual ones.
So, this may or may not be what you had in mind, but there are user forums associated with Bacon. They're pretty heavily moderated, though. There is, however, also a Bacon subreddit that is less heavily moderated.
They strike me as a subreddit user.
Yeah, I would say so.
Ing?
This can go after this particular segment. But I would put in the chat, the warrant only really buys us time if whoever's pursuing it stays within the law. this might have to move up a timetable, or it could be exactly the move that they're trying to prompt.
We can assume at this point that the entire building is being surveilled.
Right.
Which makes the plan a challenge. Not that it was a challenge before, I guess, but you get me.
The kit bash seemed to drill its way up into the workshop. Does that mean that perhaps there's some access tunnels underneath that we could drill down into and access the tunnels from there?
I've been here a while. Do I have a floor plan of this place? I feel like that's something Byrne would have insisted on.
Oh, yes, but it does not include station infrastructure.
That's a firm maybe.
I mean, the received wisdom would be that somewhere beneath the frontispiece there is basement space. But a lot of commercial and residential buildings have essentially infrastructure tubing more than they have like directly like a basement level below them that just happens to be inaccessible because no door was installed. I'm trying to think of a good way to analogize this, which is maybe just
a crawl space, but worse.
Well, kinda. Imagine, if you will, the space between drywall sheets in your wall, and then turn that to be your floor, and make it, instead of out of gypsum, out of like, plastics, metals, and concrete. That is what you would most expect to find beneath any given commercial or residential space that doesn't have a basement entrance specifically in it. That's not to say that if you drilled through that, you wouldn't find yourself in the basements, but kit bashes are small enough to use those spaces in a way that most human beings are not.
Right. So a kit bash could use it to traverse. It does not follow that it could fit, say, an Overthree.
Indeed. In the same way that a mouse can get into your crawl space, but a German Shepherd would have a hard time.
That's the old saying, guys.
Yes, I'm always saying that.
Mm-hmm. You are. I'm actually a little tired of it.
So I am going to pursue this whole Revenant stream, assuming that information was shared with the group chat that we can't necessarily get out by digging out.
I would say it's more like common sense that maybe could be confirmed in the course of a conversation that we don't necessarily have to have in real time.
That's true. Yeah, I was not encouraging us to do that.
Yeah.
So
I think like Ing brings it up, and I say something along the lines of like, it's a good idea if we can miniaturize ourselves in some way. I don't really know how to do that though.
Honey, I Shrunk the Dreamer.
I was just imagining Kato's head like crawling off of his collarbone on little spider legs and going into the substrate.
I would have to consult the character sheet quite carefully to determine how possible that is.
This is some like Futurama presidential head nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Cal, you were saying.
So I do think I want to roll investigation, what have you, to figure out what I can about the Revenant.
Mm-hmm.
And I like I said, I feel like they browse the subreddit, but I want to find enough information to essentially dangle a tantalizing stake in front of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think this roll would be clever plus investigation.
Actually, let me make it a bounty hunter roll. Bounty hunter.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Clever plus bounty hunter.
Yeah. So that'll be 3. So 2d6 plus 6.
That's correct.
I got 2 6s.
Very nice.
My request is to up the tracker by 1 because it's plus 6 and 6 plus 6.
I mean, yeah, it is going to be hard to get 3 6s in this particular system. Not impossible, but it doesn't happen often. So I'll see what I can do for you there. Where do I include
Thank
this?
you.
In any case, 18 is an incredible roll in this system. So let's see. Okay, so your investigations, there are some complications, right, to being able to zero in on this person. But you are able to construct something of a profile, not like necessarily anything more specific than the broadest personality profile. The more useful part of it is actually what they will have needed to know and when in order to have taken the actions that they've taken. You turn part of it into a logic puzzle and then reason out where they would have gotten the information that they seem to have had. And you are not able to zero in on a username or an alias or much less a real person, but you are able to zero in on a handful of information vectors. Now, some of these are not necessarily accessible to you, like, for instance, personal tips are always a possibility. But you isolate some places where you feel pretty confident that this Revenant character is, active at times, might be the best way to put it. What are you specifically looking to kind of seed in these places?
So this is going to be a 2-part operation.
Mm-hmm.
The first is that I want to know where all of the IMX drones are situated, and try to orchestrate them all going down simultaneously. Unfortunately, I am lacking a certain...
You're putting a hit out on the IMX drones?
Yes.
I love this.
So I want to get locations of all the IMX drones and leak them to said R3 Venant.
And the second step?
I'm going to bluff.
Okay.
And say, I have further information that you seek. And establish a meeting time. I'll leak enough of the IMX drone locations if I can get a hold of them from Ramirez, to show in good faith, and then promise that the rest will be delivered once contact has been made. And I'll establish a burner email through the non-cop side of my phone.
Okay.
Accordingly.
So the goal here is to informally, or I guess through suggestion, put out a hit on the IMX drones, and also try to establish direct contact with Revenant.
Yeah,
by
those are the 2 steps.
Okay.
And the cause for the hit will be, we have confirmed that they're drawing a lot of personal data, right? And
Seems
they
that way.
are, yeah. So I will offer to provide evidence of that, along with the fact that they are breaching the law and performing search and seizures without warrants.
Okay. So let's take it in stages.
We are getting closer to LA Confidential in space.
And I love this.
Yes.
I will have to take your word for it. I know the name and nothing else. Let's see. I think, then, that the first bit about being able to get and provide the IMX drone locations will be a clever plus investigation on your end, which is 2d6 plus 5.
Okay. Oh, how the turntables.
Oh.
I
Now
got
that she's
snake
on the other
eyes.
foot.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's
You-
still 7.
Are able to discover that the IMX drones specifically are designed not to have regular or predictable patrol patterns. This is one of the features for which Lou Tupper paid when he bought them. You can basically tell the group of them, here is the area I want covered, and in his case it's Selden District, the jurisdiction of PSS, but they will then algorithmically, in giant quotation marks, divvy up their patrol routes basically day by day, so that they cover the area more or less equally, equal coverage averaged over time, but no predictable routes. Now, it is entirely possible that long-term observation could reveal some of the patterns here, but no inside information that is completely actionable. However, you might still be able to parlay this, in terms of your sort of using that information to bait Revenant. If you were able to convincingly pretend or present that you could provide this information, on the back end, if contacted privately. So up to you whether you want to go ahead with that or not.
Well, on what platform am I posting this information?
Sticking with Ribbit, I think, for this, where you're anonymously, sort of calling the attention to it, trying to get the personal contact from the public offer of information.
I will guarantee the location of a certain number of IMX drones. And then mention the rest should be destroyed on site.
All right.
And try to in addition to getting the Revenant's intention, I'm also trying to rile up the people using this subreddit who subreddit, who presumably have some pretty radical feelings about law enforcement, and see if I can't start a casual movement on campus against these drones.
So this is going to be, I think, I'm thinking plus bounty hunter, since that's kind of the crowd that you're working with. So plus 5, 2d6 plus 5.
2d6 plus 5. I've switched to another better. Or better. So I got a 1 and a 5, so that's 6 plus 5 is 11.
11. All right. So you get a couple of DMs from this. It kicks off a conversation that is, less useful to you, but you get a couple of direct messages. Let's say 4. Only one of them has any sort of called positive identification. Claims to be from a member of the band Slagpie, and is asking you for concrete information on where these drones will be and how they can be destroyed, because evidently they have earned the ire of the more active elements of the L4 refugee activism community. Any of the other 3 could potentially be Revenant, but they are less forthcoming, more cagey, should we say, more OPSEC focused in the way they offer up information. But all 3 of these messages in their own ways are expressing interest in sort of pushing back against the IMX drone presence in PSS jurisdictions. And might be others, but one of them might be Revenant for all you were able to tell.
I'm going to respond to them all the same way.
Okay.
I'm going to... I imagine I got like a sense of the... Did I get a sense of the algorithmic patrols? Like where some might be in addition to the one that is currently still?
I mean, in the amount of time this takes, you're not able to get a really solid, kind of pattern going. It's not the work of minutes to, do this investigation, post this information, receive and reply to these DMs, but it would be the work of a couple of weeks to get a solid idea of the IMX drone patrol patterns. However, you do have one shortcut, which is the knowledge that the frontispiece is likely to be under heavier surveillance for a while.
Mm-hmm. I am not going to name the frontispiece in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that there's been increased activity around, and list the road names within a radius of the frontispiece that would logically pull anyone who is seeking to find these drones to where the one is stationed. More to follow, and I will also share a screenshot of the information that they are collecting with private details redacted selectively, but such that it's obvious that they are collecting individual data on civilians.
Marvelous. So you don't get replies from all four. Slagpie is one of the ones that doesn't reply. But you do get replies from two of the others. One is just the text, "Time to resist some arrests." And a little emoticon of like a down eyebrow smiling face. The other response is, "Useful information, if true. Keep you posted."
Excellent. I'm going to respond to these two.
Mm-hmm.
Rumor has it of a crooked PSS officer in the area. Don't have a description, but they respond to the word albatross. I want to clarify too, they might have additional information on the drones while I continue to crack their system.
Sure enough. And the one response you get is interesting, ... So that's about as far as your DM conversations take you sort of naturally. Obviously, you now have a DM conversation with, these four accounts, but, their responses have sort of run their course. So you can use those however you see fit.
I am going to take the Ribbit post down once I feel that it's had enough traffic. Just, to complicate the trail a little bit further in case
Very
someone
reasonable.
starts poking into the destruction of IMX drones.
Yeah. I think on that note, actually, I am going to do just a little chaos roll using my dice canister, courtesy of listener and patron Din. Fun sounds. All right. So all of this has taken a few hours, inclusive of the research. In that time, yes, Cal.
Sorry, I I was gonna wait for you to finish that. But once I have taken it down, I am going to send a very Cal-ish text to Burns' number. Very, very bluntly bringing them up to speed, and with the request, could use your help in keeping the heat off Cato. And after a beat, I'll send a single word in a text, please.
Now, at that time, both of those messages bounce back to you as undelivered.
Mhm.
Which has been
I figured.
the way that it's gone since Burn disappeared. Okay, so in the interim, while Cal is orchestrating all of this, this is the day, right, that you were going to be initiating this operation initially, according to the plan. So let's see, check in perhaps with Ing, in the first part of that Tuesday. What in particular are you using your time for?
Yeah, I mean, I'll send out another message to the chat first of all, putting two other possible responses to the situation out there. The first, that if there were some sufficient distraction or kind of thing that required a police response, it might draw the drones from the area and give us a gap out there. Or assuming that those in charge of the station are corrupt and have some of the police in their pocket, if we could intimate that we are working for one of them doing illegal things, then maybe the police will be called off. And just see what those that are more worldly than me have to say about it.
I feel like I've done a lot of talking. That's why
You have, but this is sort of your area of expertise.
Yeah, it's very much this is your op for the moment.
So 1, yes, could work. 2, don't poke that bear.
All right. Well, let's see what happens with the rest of it. In the meantime, I don't know, I feel like I'm wrapping up my projects as quickly as possible so that even if they have to be interrupted mid-stride, I'm able to move on short notice.
Very reasonable. Oh. Also, just to one side, the tasks that our NPC allies have had, you have less concrete information on how the things Apacia's working on by herself are going, but she has been responsive and helpful to those attempting to, in Cal's case, put together a dossier of known dreamers. In Kaito's case, coming up with a language of angels. Bronwy has reported that she thinks her and Gorister's work on making targeting difficult has progressed as far as it can. Gorister's been working with Ing on tracking device and various countermeasures with maybe some of it'll work. He's been very frustrated by reverse engineering Prolix's collar, though. It has been carefully designed so that removing it renders it non-functional. This is not necessarily just like, it breaks this circuit, and if you can solder it back together, it would work again. It's designed such that it will fry capacitors. Which has the knock-on effect of damaging ROM modules on the circuit board. So it is maybe not totally impossible to take it off and salvage the ability to reverse engineer it, but it would be very high effort and not a guarantee of success. And so Gorister has left it on because he doesn't want to destroy it, irretrievably, but he's very salty. Although a little bit proud of having figured out how that feedback system would work before actually triggering it.
Okay. And just checking in, Gorista. This, I suppose, remotely, because I don't really want to be seen at the frontispiece. The biochaff that you worked on, does that go for non-human entities as well?
He goes, well, it simulates organic signatures. That's frankly easier to make it stand out against the background operations of the station. Theoretically, we could use it to simulate inorganic activity as well, but it just seemed less overall effective. He sort of shows you that basically what they've got is a small firework that throws kind of little transmitters, short range wireless transmitters, in a spread pattern, not on like a grenade, but at lower velocities. And wherever they land, they start to, sort of spoof some information to various sensory spectra.
All right. Well, good to know. Thanks for working that out at least.
It's a cool project. It's honestly maybe pretty useful. I don't know if cartel folks have anything like this, but start selling them at just above cost to, well, my people. And he gives the closest thing to a smile you've seen from him. I guess this isn't in person, but if it's a video call, you'd see the smile. If not, then he would attempt to convey it via emoji, emoticons, ASCII art, GIFs, combination.
Yeah, let's make it a remote call. Yeah.
Sure.
That's about all on my side for the time being.
Sure.
I'd offer my
In that
services
case-
to Cal or anybody in the group that could use them.
Excellent. In that case, Burn.
Yes.
You've come to the morning of the day of the op. How are you spending it?
I flip my phone on to receive whatever messages there might be that have come in.
Mm-hmm. You get a fair few, including the ones we've talked about this session.
Okay. Remind me of the precise phrasing, Robin?
It's a very blunt description of the very Cal kind of condescending undertone, followed by, could use your help in taking the heat off Cato. And then in a separate text, just a single word, please. No punctuation, lowercase.
Cal texts like my dad.
Excellent. I'm accomplishing the style of texting
Yeah.
which I'm attempting to capture.
From an unknown number, you get a text. Is it known the nature of the problematic transmission?
Do I have any idea?
I think
based
I don't
on
think any of us
information?
know.
Yeah.
That probably would have been submitted to the court in the warrant paperwork, perhaps?
Adam?
I say out of character.
No such information has been specifically made public yet. It is likely, well, phrasing it a little more precisely, Cal's assumption would probably be that this paperwork is being prepared sort of after the fact. The request for a warrant has gone in and will be sitting in the inbox until the relevant information is submitted by PSS. You can't count on them to be very, very slow with it, but it is likely that they only started after the warrant request came through.
So, That unknown number receives a text back. Just simple lowercase no. No. But I smile slightly as I send it. And then it's shortly followed by need help with drone location. Ideally, and then specify a date and time, or not a date, but a time shortly before the operation is meant to unfold.
Which has been unspecified up to this point. My assumption would be after the close of business, nebulously.
I offer Allie a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Namely, I list 24 shitty businesses across Selden District, including our free speech chuckle fuck.
Uh-huh.
And suggest that it may be an interesting lark for a number of different reasons and for purposes of getting the heat off of a variety of folks, for these businesses to detectably transmit less than licit data to, anywhere soever you please.
After about like a 5-minute turnaround, you get a message back from Allie that just says challenge accepted and has a gif from a movie of a character like pulling their goggles on.
Nice.
I send back an anime thumbs up reaction.
I'm gonna make a roll
deliberately extremely Genki.
I'm gonna make a roll for Allie here real quick. All right.
I believe also previously that I had tapped into security cameras sort of in the vicinity of Selden and particularly in relation to the shop.
More so that second one, yes.
Okay. Would it be possible to expand my network?
Possible. Roll a hacking.
And a ghosting, because that is at plus 5, I believe. No, 7, because so at plus 7, that is 13.
Okay. Let me file that away, and
for
then you're ghosting.
Ghosting, also at plus 7, that is a 15.
Okay. There is a functional maximum size to the coverage that you can get because there are essentially like maintenance systems in place that start resetting connections if too many register as like either down or like in an altered capacity. You're able to expand it a little bit from the frontispiece, but you're not able to get more than, let's call it like a fuzzy boundary of a block radius around the frontispiece.
If I can't expand it immensely just from the frontispiece out, what I would do instead is just hit like intersections that could maximize my traffic coverage.
Yeah.
For then best chance of being able to point out where the goddamn drones are at any given time.
Yeah, you're able to pinpoint some intersections and thoroughfares that are particularly likely to become relevant. I'm going to keep this relatively abstract, but
sure.
That is something that you are able to spend part of your morning doing.
Cool. I will then
Sorry.
offer up a program to, well, I will deliver onto Cal's phone a program to access results of searches for that.
Excellent.
And
Fantastic.
offer a little, like, ping, probably your Ogvert, to alert you that it's there.
Summer, I smile outright.
All right. Cato, you are a party to some of this, goings on that have taken place in the conversations and whatnot. Of course, you do have a business that you're also ostensibly running during this. But
Out to lunch.
Anything in particular that you are using your morning for?
We still, in theory, need a mag lift if we're not activating this thing in here. So I'm still asking around to see if there is someone we know that would have something that helps us transport Overthree safely, ideally covertly, although that's a challenge.
Yeah, so do give me a roll. Let's see, that's going to be... we'll make it criminal underworld and cool. So a total of 2d6 plus 3.
Okay, and let the record show I will be using my Den device for the first time. Thank you, Den. Thank you, Des, for delivering.
It only took me a few months.
There we are. That kind of landed on the edge, huh?
You can dump it out into the lid.
Oh, that's true, yeah. That is loud. That's 8, you said, plus, was it 4 or 3?
3.
8 plus 3 is 11.
All right. The contact who provided you the little maglift pallet jack last time that you used to get Overthree to the frontispiece in the first place is unable to loan it to you this time. They've only got the one, and it is out on loan. That said, after not really getting any other hits, you end up taking an odd sort of circumnavigation of your circles and field an offer from Sim of Izakaya Po'boy. He has, but
Return of the King,
but does not typically use at this stage a little as you call it, like cargo bike cart that he intended to be able to hire someone to make local deliveries with, but hasn't gotten around to that yet. And he says in his message, if you cover up the Izakaya Po'boy branding on it, that you can have it until you don't need it anymore for 2 cash.
That seems worth it. I thank him. I say, don't worry, you won't get any free advertising that you don't actually want. And I appreciate it.
Can I, do you share this with the group before you cough up the 2 cash?
I do.
I'm going to send a message to my boy Brock Choi. I'm going to offer him more information on Lou Tupper. If he can persuade our friend to let us use the cart branding covered for free.
Okay. Let's get... let's see. I think it's just going to be a straightforward cool roll from you, Cal. 2d6 plus 2.
Okay. I had to decide which dice to go with. So 7 on the dice, a 4 and a 3, plus 2 is 9.
Okay. Troy gets back to you pretty quickly with a message saying, "It's not that I don't want to help, but, well, I can't risk my commercial relationship with Mr. Bellefontaine. Besides, he could use the money."
I respect that.
Ing,
Yeah, I did also come into 2 cash today.
you did. So
I
did
can help out.
Kato.
You could go.
I do have
Nazis.
two. I do have 2 cash on hand, so I'm able to make the transaction. Do I have 4? Yes, because I got 2 this time. Yeah, so I have 4 cash on hand. Thanks, Des.
I'm good at keeping track of other people's money.
This place really would fall apart without you. You Des and you Burn. So yeah, okay. So I do have the cash on hand to handle the transaction, but of course, folks kicking stuff in is appreciated as we make the books balance later. But I'll, what do you have a small business for? Especially a front, if not for stuff like this.
Yeah, so Tim says that, he'll leave the bike with the cart attached, sort of out back and slightly distant from Izakaya Po' Boy, and that it should be there in half an hour, and it will stay there. If you could please return it to the same spot when you are done.
I do send some additional information on Lou gratis to Brock, because I think it's important to not just reach out when I have a dire situation.
He sends you back a green heart emoji and some cartoonified vegetable leaf as an emoji.
I respond with a series of veggie emojis. Sans eggplant once again. And peach, for that matter. That
Cal
is
knows
not a
that
vegetable. Yeah.
I was gonna say there aren't that many vegetable ones, I don't think. So if you're excluding fruits, then
Leeks, broccoli, cabbage.
Yeah, I mean, so many of
Round,
the
green,
vegetables
leafy
are
thing,
actually
whatever.
rather
Yeah.
phallic.
It's true.
I try to avoid those as much as possible.
It's fair. It's fair.
Probably just a bunch of leafy greens and then a random tree thrown in that looked like it might be a vegetable to my squinting eyes.
this
But
oddly
might relay
colored
the wrong
cauliflower.
Yes.
Ignorant to this conversation, of course, I say that we've acquired a means of transporting. We have unfortunately subsidized the Cajun hot sake market. This is followed by an ASCII art of a daikon.
I sent a thumbs up. But accidentally also a vegetable.
Which one?
Not the eggplant.
It wouldn't be
Not
in
the
recess. Yeah.
Have we established how we are going to make Overthree and not look like a giant dreamer we're dragging around?
I do have an idea. I mean, it seems like either we could try to be as inconspicuous as possible or as conspicuous as possible. Like
Go on.
If we, for example, glued a bunch of trash to the outside and carted it through the streets with a megaphone saying, this is the amount of trash the average, L4 person, generates in a single day, I think that people will actively try to avoid us.
I love this.
That's a very good idea.
Awkward that's going to get you on Slag Pie's shit list, but yeah.
If you say L4 specifically, but we don't have to make it about that.
Yeah, that's not what I meant. What I was looking for is us, who are
Grand
we?
Cross,
We are
more
Grand Cross.
generally.
I didn't catch the L4 slander, so I'm glad.
Right.
I appreciate the clarification there.
I assumed the
assuming Grand
racism.
Cross.
I assumed the prejudice was accidental, and that
Yeah.
actually you just meant yeah.
Yes,
Grand
exactly.
Cross-
I did mean Grand Cross, but
Yeah, Grand Cross
Yeah,
is at
we
the
are
L5 point. Yeah.
L5, thank you.
Mm. We could even say that. We could make it more specific. We could make it a neighborhood issue, but this is a good plan. Or at the very least, it's a plan, which we didn't precisely have before, other than big ass
Safe
tarp
one, yeah.
with 2 holes cut in it like it's a large Halloween ghost.
But
In January.
In January.
Would I know of any law that might make this I imagine it's a form of protest and therefore should be protected. But would it ping any flags on my cop radar?
If you were going to try to hassle someone doing this form of protest, it would be probably a noise citation.
Okay. So I will equip the team with how to avoid getting a noise citation. Should we choose to go this route, likely
no louder than.
yeah, it'll be a copy and paste, not even like concealed as a copy and paste from whatever resource I pull it from. Just very sloppily midway through a sentence,
Yeah, I'm also actually realizing that probably the university and PSS have worked up between them like a permitting system for protests to allow campus security to hassle people who don't get their acts of protest pre-approved. That is actually not in alignment with the actual like free speech rights of Grand Cross, but that like you can use as like, well, this is university policy. So if you're going to be,
and does the university property extend to the streets?
Not
sidewalks?
Exactly. No, it is. There are areas, there are thoroughfares that are G-Pol campus, but if you stay off of them, theoretically, these do not apply to you. That has not always stopped PSS from attempting to hassle people.
Of course.
So it could attract attention. Okay. So I would also be aware of this, incredibly so. And I would say more or less like give the idea a gold star, but share that unless we have a permit for the protest, we could attract more PSS attention than we'd like. And I'm sure some officers are willing to or eager to harass some students.
Can prep have falsified a permit when the moment arrives?
That is the sort of thing that prep is intended to accomplish.
Beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
Oh, hey, look.
Tubular.
Solution to the problem of the plan.
I love violating causality.
It's not violating causality. We prepped for this.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
What I love is backstory.
Yeah.
Give me those flashbacks.
These are leverage flashbacks.
I love the Kuleshov effect.
But it's still classified as retconning.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah. It is literally retroactive continuity.
It's Bill and Ted style time travel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember to go back and fix this.
Right. Exactly.
We're just retcon artists.
Dude, you're just coming with these game names tonight that are all going to have to exist at some point.
I would like to make this time travel game with you, Drew.
We're going to put a pin in that.
We will have.
He knows what's up.
Yes.
Or, he will.
He will have known.
Yeah.
So I think that we've got 10 total group prep, and so that would take us down
Assorted
to 9.
individual prep, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we use it in the moment, I suggest that we don't spend
that
it
was
preemptively.
my
it's
assumption.
At time of problem, prep is solution.
I was just confirming that was the kind of thing that we could at least attempt to use it for.
Cool.
Yes. Oh, look, officer, my permit. Okay.
Hold it up. Just my front middle finger.
Oh wait! I got another one here in this pocket.
I just realized that I pulled 2 permits.
Why is this one in a jack-in-a-box?
Listener, I invite you to imagine what our video shows from these players currently.
Like Nick's username, it is a lot of middle fingers. I messed that up still somehow.
Nah, you got it.
What a versatile gesture. So
Is it that?
we are going to spool time forward. Towards the end of the business day, Bronwy and Gorister have been working after lunch to essentially pack up the Dreamers in the back, Faraday cages and all, restraints and all. It will be probably on Kato to go retrieve the bike after, business is closed for the day. And then, those of you who are already at the frontispiece make sense to be the ones to hoist the dreamers into the cart. And to the degree that you wish to do so, decorate them as garbage or whatever tactic you're taking for this hiding in plain sight protest kind of thing.
Take down Mount Cartboard.
Yeah, if only my actual garage were available in game. But alas. I think we do just that. I think we certainly begin the decorating process. I assume that the point we're making is actually quite valid because garbage is not going to actually be hard to come by. And we get to decorating.
Sure.
Or at least I do. I won't speak for anyone else on this bizarre and unsavory task. I assume Ing is enthusiastic, but that's for Ing to say.
Well, I assumed Ing was not there because people who were not expected to be at the frontispiece were avoiding it. But correct me.
That is also a good point.
If we're gearing up for the reverse heist, I'd probably drop by at some point.
All right, then, yeah.
Let's say I get started before you drop by and you receive frequent update pictures.
You're doing it wrong. More trashy.
Bronwyn is also stretching her creative muscles here. Gorrister is essentially on nail gun, glue gun, and other fasteners duty. He does this with about as much grace as he does anything. So here is a roll for Bronwyn's and Gorrister's efforts. They are artistes about this. Kato and Ing, you can demote yourselves to sort of manual labor here because Gorrister, despite his best efforts, gets into it, and he and Bronwyn, between the two of them, are doing a sort of like Olympics opening ceremonies level of elaborate staging and showmanship here with this small pile of garbage.
Hell yeah.
I expect
in the meantime,
that if you look at it like a magic eye and unfocus your eyes, a face comes into focus.
I like it.
The face
I
is
just hope
disapproving.
Overthree doesn't mind. That's is no insult intended.
Sorry, I interrupted you, Nick.
Yeah, I was saying in the meantime, maybe if Kato does have a megaphone handy, I'd calibrate it, work on calibrating it to just below the noise threshold that would get us sighted.
I can certainly calibrate my own voice to a decibel level, so that might be the best way. But do I, in point of fact, have a megaphone? I don't know that I do.
It is likely. It is likely to be something restricted under a noise ordinance, based on at least real world precedent.
And I can't.
I would also encourage you to disguise yourself, because if you're under surveillance and then suddenly take up a noble cause while carting garbage around, it'll be pretty obvious that you are up to something.
Yeah,
I recommend mustaches.
You should perhaps not go.
I am not the easiest to disguise. That's a good point.
Yeah,
recognizable.
I was gonna say
might have to hide you amongst the refuse.
Wouldn't be the first time.
I was gonna say you are actually probably going to have to just take an entirely different route than if you're drawing attention to this thing. You don't want to be anywhere near it, because even with something like holographic projection armor obscuring you, it is going to be easier to pick you out with your asymmetry than most.
Yeah. I believe a bajillion hours of play ago, we established I have a coat that drapes such that I just look like a very big guy. So I'll wear that and take a different route.
Mm-hmm. Around about the time that this project is finishing up, Apatia drops in to put in her effort here, and is thrilled with the sort of fake protest plan, because this is her bread and butter. She is very sure that she will be able to carry it off. Cal, just before it is about time for you to clock out and, sort of see how you can slot into all of this, bulletins go out across PSS that 2 of the 3 IMX drones have come under attack in the last 10 minutes. One has had a huge amount of cooked tofu thrown at it, several cubes at a time. The assailants are in black bloc, and so are not hidden, but are also anonymous at current. And a pursuit order is in effect for those. The other one seems to have been scoped out and had its path lightly booby-trapped with smoke bombs and essentially small homemade fireworks that make very loud screeching noises.
So, considering that neither of these have the MO of our revenant friend, I'm going to camp out without hopefully being surveilled. I'm going to camp out by the one outside of the frontispiece. See what happens. I would also like to formally retcon having, in the process of planning, reached out to Cato for a means to potentially secure the stun gun back if he knew where Byrne was keeping it, assuming Byrne had not taken it with him.
I believe we had it on air that Byrne gave Cato the stun gun because
didn't want to know where it was.
Yeah, but that may not have been established in character. So
yeah. So I absolutely made sure that we bring it along.
Yeah.
Assuming that when I went to the drawer that I hid it in, it was still there, which might be a big assumption, but I think it's probably what happened.
Yeah, it was, and so you were able to get it back to Cal.
Cool.
So it seems like this is as good a time as you are going to have to start moving this thing. Now, where it is going is something that has not previously come up so far. Basically, there are quite a lot of entrances to the basement levels. Most of them are quite small. They are not entrances so much as apertures. Many of the entrances that are entrances are for people and not equipment. So you have had to go to the nearest one that would be sized for something like Overthree. It is not tremendously far, but Grand Cross is a dense place, and Selden District being, downtown-ish, denser than most. So having to go just under 3 blocks is kind of intimidating. The good news is that the area that you have chosen for this entrance is out of the way. It is partway down a access alley, right, to the back of businesses on one side and what we might call university adjacent facilities on the other. So not things that the university itself owns and runs, but student-oriented private rental housing, parking, paid parking decks, things like that. There is no guarantee at any hour of any day in any part of Selden District that you will have total privacy, but you've timed it to hopefully be after most people will have cleared out.
Does anyone ever show up for the frontispiece?
I was gonna kind of get there as we start moving the
okay,
cart.
Fantastic. I'm still watching it and making sure that it's not going to capture where the cart is departing.
Yeah. I will also rule, we hadn't really circled back to it. It has kind of hung out there in essentially low power mode, but the first couple of people who came to the frontispiece on what is admittedly a fairly slow business day did sort of like roll it off to the side a little bit so they could get to the door. So it is not like directly in front of the door, but rather kind of perpendicular to it, a little off to one side.
Fantastic. Okay.
I'm going to start getting a couple of rolls from people. So, first up, Cato, you are just moving stealthily, not like sneaking, but just staying under the radar, taking your own route. I would like you to give me make that a quick roll, because I'm generous and not at all mean. 2d6 plus 3.
I'm always saying that about you. Handsome, too. That is an 8 plus 3 is 11. And actually, that is 2 4s, so that is a critical if that matters.
Taken into account, there are no...
to announce all of our crits.
Indeed. This is... there is no specific effect listed, like, rules-wise here, but I will take into account that it is doubles.
I'm stealthy as fuck, is what we're saying here.
Fortunately,
that would be rolling higher.
You have a distraction, which I'm going to roll for Apatia. Ing, if you are contributing to this, that is your call. And we can get a roll from you. This would probably be... I mean, I can see my way clear to making it apply under Android rights movement, which would be plus cool, so 2d6 plus 5. It's not about Android rights, but, that would have been where you could practice this kind of performance.
Mm-hmm.
7 on the dice, plus 5 is 12?
12, yeah. So let me roll for Apatia. Ooh. She got a critical as well. So, as you start this little parade... Bronwyn and Gorst are sort of hanging back there. They're basically looking like bored onlookers, right? Who are like, let's see where this goes, following from like the sidewalk, just kind of looking on. Apatia, for her part, draws attention regardless. It's kind of her whole thing. And so she starts pretty immediately delegating to you the task of actually like pedaling this cargo pike and an attendant cart. Quite heavy, but you're up to the task. And she just sort of starts shouting in a raised voice, but not beyond the threshold of what might get cited, to say, "We may have left the land behind, but we are turning our space into a landfill. This, gesturing at the cart, is the amount of garbage that the average resident of Grand Cross produces in just 3 weeks. And where do you think all that goes? Orbit is already cluttered, and most of it gets jettisoned out into our close Earth space. How are we supposed to transport our loved ones and our necessary cargo safely if we aren't trying to conserve?" And it just goes from there.
Apatia talking about conservation is something I was not prepared for.
Let the listener be aware that Robin is fanning herself.
So she gets, like more or less exactly the attention, right? People look long enough to figure out what's going on and then tune out, over and over again. You can see it. Ing, anything in particular that you are attempting to contribute here? Excuse me.
I will grab fistfuls of like newspaper and garbage and like wave it at anybody that looks a little bit too closely to make them actively avoid looking any closer and walk away.
Honestly, a very clever tactic. Kudos. So you guys Inganapatia, you make the first block totally uneventful. Cal, you are sort of getting all of these little bulletins about the ongoing kerfuffle around these other two drones, watching the one outside of the frontispiece. Burn, you are sort of monitoring the various traffic at the places where your cameras have been co-opted, and piecing together the various things that are going on around Selden District because of this op. You are able to sort of note that things seem to be moving as expected. Kato, you're mostly in the dark other than group texts, but are making your way at a more rapid clip than the package is to the basement entrance that you've chosen. About the time that Ing and Apatia are halfway through the second block of this route, a couple of things happen, not exactly simultaneously, but given the asynchronous nature of this operation, we can handle them at around the same time. So, first thing, Cal, you are not the only person on the street. There are people, moving around Selden District. It happens. But you do become aware that sometime in the last minute to 90 seconds, you have ceased to be the only person watching this drone. You are looking, as you sort of come to this realization, like across the street and down a little way, at a person who appears to be woman of middle or older years, a prominent scar, sort of from her right temple to the right corner of her mouth across her cheek, kind of pulling her mouth into an unusual shape. She's not tall, but seems fairly solid. It's not entirely clear to you from this distance whether that is because she is like solidly built or because she's standing in a way that suggests solidity. What is interesting is that she is wearing what I'm going to cheekily call diet tactical gear. Cargo pants in dark colors tucked into army surplus combat boots, and a sort of army drab tank top with what looks at first like a relatively full on like civilian tactical vest, but after a moment's observation is actually a military style medics webbing that has had the visibility markings stripped off of it. She's standing with her arms crossed and sort of glaring at this drone.
I'm just going to watch and observe, see how it plays out, continue to stay cool, and yeah.
Good deal. Burn, we'll handle your thing next.
Okay.
You become aware that you are suddenly not the only person observing security feeds around Selden District. There is enough of a dearth of further information here that what you can conclude is that the other observer is also an illicit observer. They have taken care to cover their tracks. All you are able to do is basically see that there is another port being accessed from a couple of the cameras that you are accessing that is sending all of its surveillance data, through that port as well.
I will do the sort of digital equivalent of a "oh hi," like just a little packet through the port.
Mm-hmm. it takes a moment to the point where you're starting to wonder if you are going to get a response, but it's a pretty slick move. In one of the feeds you're observing, a little picture-in-picture opens up and displays a GIF from a Western where two of the three people in a Mexican standoff are like smiling and doing like a little chin nod at each other.
I will send back a doctored gif of a Dalek exploding with a question mark.
It's a good GIF. GIF game strong.
Fantastic gift.
GIFs together strong.
And canonically acknowledging the existence of Doctor Who in this universe, which makes perfect sense given the alt historical timeline. So it will take another moment or two, but the GIF in your little picture-in-picture changes to be an older. Hang on, I'm trying to remember the timeline here. Not the current Doctor, but two back from the current Doctor in this version of 2020, doing like a fist pump, like yes, inside of the TARDIS.
I'll just offer up specifically like the pinpoints of what I know of where they are. If I know about the two that have been interfered with, I will specifically supply those, as well as the one outside the frontispiece and wherever the fourth one is or may be.
Yeah. You supply the information that you have, and the other hacker responds with a GIF from an action movie or show that you do not recognize, where a very dusty, unshaven man with like military cropped hair and like burned and bloodied clothes is giving a tired smile and like a very action movie thumbs up to the camera. And presumably they are going about their business there. We'll catch up with that again in just a moment. Ing. As you are passing through the second block, everything is going pretty swimmingly, until a voice calls out from the passers-by, seemingly aimed at Apatia.
Oh no.
It's a unfamiliar masculine voice, but says, "Whore of Babylon! We should space you along with the trash!"
Oh, look, it's Mr. Gonna Die by the end of the campaign.
Now, Apatia, for her part, does not respond to this at all, but others in the crowd are now paying more attention given this unexpected interaction. Many people keep moving. They're not stopping to observe, but some do, who aren't in a hurry or who are already kind of just hanging around, businesses, homes, whatever. Start to kind of tune in. It is not immediately clear to you to whom this voice belonged.
I give Apatia a nod and then peel off to see if I can distract this person, track down the voice, engage the voice, if necessary, have an argument with the voice.
Now
as
you
the
are
procession proceeds.
Pedaling the cargo bike.
Yes, I am. Let's see. So since I haven't yet said where my drones are,
Mhm.
where would you suppose they are so that I don't bias myself in one direction or another?
Sure, I would assume that they are surreptitiously like trailing along. Let's say probably Bronwy and Gorister have between the two of them the like ones that have to walk, kind of on their persons, and then the flying ones are staying low over rooftops as they sort of just trail a little ways behind. If that sounds reasonable to you.
It does, and as an aside, the idea of teeny tiny robots walking along beside them is just unbearably cute to me.
I mean, I do have that in my head that the drones have hitched a ride on Bronwy and Gorister to be less underfoot and less obvious, but your image is extraordinarily cute.
That too. So I'd like to peel those off that I can to go and track down the voice and see if I can deal with the voice remotely.
Sure.
Once the target has been acquired.
Yeah, let's get a robotics roll from you. I think this is going to be a cool plus robotics because it's, very much about like keeping your cool and dividing your attention. So that's going to be plus 5.
Reasonable. And that's 10 plus 5, 15.
All right. So you manage not to bike into anything while you are kind of splitting your attention this way, and you take a couple of the airborne drones and a couple of the ones that were hitching a ride on Gorister, and sort of fan them out in search of where this voice came from. It does seem that this is not somebody who is trying to provoke a pitched confrontation, because they have drawn this attention and then sort of tried to fade into the background, but you are able to sort of using where it came from and how it sounded and the process of elimination to isolate who you think is your guy. It's an older man, a little bit of salt and pepper in his hair with some bad facial hair and way too much hairspray, wearing a short sleeve white button up shirt and black slacks, along with tennis shoes, who has kind of leaned against a storefront behind some like cafe furniture to stay a little bit out of the way, and you're able to match the voice to the call he is on, which is wrapping up right as you sort of zero in on him, but ends with, "Yeah, out in broad daylight. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, bye."
All right. I text the group updating them, providing the location of the person, and suggesting this person seems to be engaged in active surveillance and is more than incidental contact.
Bronwy in particular sends a little smiling devil emoji and a thumbs up, and peels off from her trailing of the bike with Gorister to go do whatever it is that she has in mind for this guy.
One can hope.
Yeah. So this has drawn a little more attention to you, and Apatia takes a moment to let everybody know that she's actually going to go a little bit past her turn and double back to allow the kind of attention to cool off a little bit.
All right.
This doesn't seem from Byrne's perspective like it's going to put her dangerously close to any drones, but obviously the anxiety of staying on the street longer. Nick?
Yeah, in the meantime, if it's not pushing my actions too far, I'd like to try to peel off more of this crowd that's been attracted by holding up a clipboard saying, yes, excellent, we're getting some traction now. I'm looking for personal volunteers to, drop by and personally address this problem. All I need is your contact information. I promise it's very unobtrusive. Only a few hours of time on your Sundays.
There were two people who were maybe looking kind of interested, but as soon as you said contact information, they melted into the crowd. It approves to be reasonably effective. I'm gonna circle back real quick here then to Cal. So while these things have been going on, the woman who's been glaring at this drone has seemingly taken a call. You sort of see her fiddle with a device, nod a couple times, her focus drifts. She does not say anything. And then you sort of intuit that the call is over and she refocuses back on the drone, and then fiddles with something sort of at her belt. And Burn, you will be able to see this part as well as you are sort of monitoring your feeds. The device on her belt activates holographic projection armor that matches what has been used in recent incidents by Revenant. About 3/4 of a second after that happens, Burn, the cameras that cover the frontispiece just power down. They will come back online, but it is going to be a full reboot. So they're going to be a couple minutes.
The frontispiece is now on lockdown.
Okay. Definitely doable there. Cal, particular actions?
Right. So I imagine that I perched up someplace that would give me a strong vantage point, but also allow me critical access to something visible from this woman's perspective.
Yeah. For one prep, we can have a fire escape you prepared earlier.
Okay. I will use a group prep. I have previously received the group's permission to do so.
Indeed.
That seems to be what I do on this missions.
Mm-hmm.
And use that to set myself up. I also think I need to spend a prep to activate my own holographic projection armor prior to taking up this point.
I believe... Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. Right tool, right job. Gain one asset specialty with an asset of your choice. The first time you would spend prep, use an asset while on a mission, spend one less prep. So you don't have to spend
I did do that, didn't I? Oh, goodness. One of these days I'll finally figure out how to play Cal.
No, you're fine. That is specifically your holographic projection armor for that.
Yes, so I don't have to spend a prep to activate it.
You just have the one for the fire escape.
Prior to taking up position on the fire escape, I'm going to activate my own holographic projection armor to take on the likeness of the Revenant. And then stand there, watching her menacingly within her eyesight.
Yeah, so, you know what? Yeah, let's go with this one. Roll cool plus holographic projection. So that's going to be 2d6 plus 3.
That's a good roll. I got a 6 and a 3. So that's a 9 plus 3 is 12.
That is a good roll. So you take up your position and your pose with your holographic projection armor going. And in this span, you see this woman, her own holographic projection armor, approaches the drone, and its screen lights up briefly before she plants what appears to be a tire iron almost all the way through it. And it starts sparking and smoking. And this is not like a superhuman feat of strength, but it is pretty impressive in one go, at very least. Uh, and at that point, after the smoke clears a little bit, you, can't see facial expressions or like eye lines behind the holographic projection armor, but you do see her sort of take a seemingly reflexive step back and like her bearing angles up in your direction, and then she very quickly snatches the tire iron out of the drone, causing more sparks and a different color of smoke before sort of pausing for a beat, seeming to sort of be looking at you.
I crook a finger in her direction, then descend down the fire exit into the adjacent alleyway.
All right. That cool roll comes in handy. Right, let's call it half a second after she moves in your direction, out of the view of the street cameras around the frontispiece, the cameras come back online. And so, Burn, you are seeing these feeds again, and they are empty of unusual traffic, though there are a couple of people who are sort of stopping to look a little bit puzzled at a smoking IMX droid with a hole in the screen that is parked outside of the frontispiece.
As I descend, can I send a quick text to the unknown number?
Sure.
It was them.
Interesting.
So,
I say, having no idea who you mean by them, not knowing about the trawling of Ribbit.
So yeah, she.
I would have. I think I sent you the information about that earlier.
I mean, some of the information about Revenant would have been in the messages that Burn got when they unblocked everything.
Okay.
I
wasn't sure how much made it through.
Yeah, I don't remember specifically when.
Yeah, I don't remember it being specifically mentioned.
Yeah, when in relation to this operation, anything was stated directly about Revenant, but I could just be forgetting. While this is going on, all of this is, of course, time dilation. Everything is kind of happening at once. Ing, your drones will observe Bronwy approaching the man you had identified as he sort of makes to surveil your progress, and asking him if he has heard the terrible news about our Lord and Master Satan. And he seems to be incapable of not taking the bait. So he is, at least for the time being, likely to be occupied there, and you and Apatia turn a corner. Kato, you are at the alleyway where everybody's supposed to show up, and so you are trying to loiter unobtrusively with seeming some success. And Cal, you have successfully enticed Revenant into this alleyway, sort of near the frontispiece, but out of view of the general street traffic and out of view of real-time surveillance. If you would like to, you have the opportunity to say the first word or make the first move, but you do not have to, and if not, then, I know what she'll do.
I do the universal kind of head up greeting and then say, well, this is awkward.
She pauses about like a body length and a half away from you, returns the little nodded greeting and says, in sort of a somewhat gravelly, somewhat lower voice, says, "Suppose it could be our I mean, are you Revenant?
As a matter of fact, I am.
Oh my god, I'm your biggest fan. And that's where we'll end our session.
Good shit.
All right. So I know I said last time that I was feeling optimistic about XP this time, but we are mid-operation. So I am going to defer that, and we may just get, depending on how this all interlocks with goals, we may get a little bit more XP for the deferral there. But this was fun. I'm looking forward to next time and the conclusion of this very complicated operation. And thank you to my players, at least, for putting up with a little bit of scatterbrainedness from me this evening. Hopefully, our listeners, this will be the first you've glimpsed of it. In the meantime, that'll conclude this session of Dice Punks. So thanks for joining us. I hope both our players and listeners enjoyed it as much as I did, and that you'll join us again next time. If you're hearing us now, then you probably know where to listen to this, but we can be found almost any place one can listen to podcasts, as well as on the wider web at dicepunks.com and on Tumblr and Blue Sky as @dicepunks. With that, I think we're ready to say farewell, so say goodbye to the kind folks back on Earth, players.
Thanks for listening. Don't be obtrusive unless you mean to, and maybe not even then, but also then.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope your heroes, when you meet them, don't turn out to be the police.
Thanks for listening, folks, and know who to reach out to and how, and so on.
Thanks for joining us, listeners. Now that we are joined, the Dice Punks have formed a Megazord Gundam and can take on greater foes.
And as the poet once said, it's been 1 week. Beloved listeners, thank you for tuning in. Stick around through the admin stuff for a Cato log. The music in this episode, Augment or Die, is by Emerson Boatwright and our very own bookmonger, Drew. Check out their other work at the link in the show notes. Editing on our rad new cover art was done by Joanne, who's appeared on the podcast now and again. Check out her work around the internet, where she goes by Anything Sews. Site design and graphics for dicepunks.com are by the one and only Officer Armitage, Robin. Hardwired Island is by Paul Machevic, Freya Erlingsdottir, and Minerva McJonda. You can find Hardwired Island at etten.itch.io/hardwired island. Links to the system and authors can be found on the Punk Grimoire section of our website, dicepunks.com. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, that's reward enough on its own, but if you're so inclined, you can help us out by rating and reviewing us wherever you listen to us, telling your friends who you think would like us to give us a listen, and even by heading over to our Patreon at patreon.com/dicepunks. We have fun rewards available to backers, including a patron-only Discord and access to the Dice Speaks After Show for episodes 1.1 and following, and also a PDF of a tabletop RPG world-building game that our very own Drew made for a game jam. So check that out. Regardless, we hope you'll tune in again, and until then, remember, subtlety is for cowards.
We did, back when, crown the earth in a laurel, a halo, an outer shell of garbage. We'd poisoned the surface too, don't get me wrong, but the befouling of the nearest by space was special. A special sort of sin of self-sabotage, choking the sky with the corpses of new tech that, we were promised, would carry us beyond our little corner of the galaxy into the expanse of exospace. They didn't, then, quite. They might, still. Maybe. But the reminder of the cage we were building for ourselves started to come in the form of things falling from the sky. My aunt, the one who still spoke to me after I had to leave home, told me how she remembered in the late 70s when a piece of Skylab fell in Australia. They fined NASA $400 for littering. And when a Soviet satellite fell apart and rained radioactivity over Great Slave Lake in northern Canada, which at the time was mostly the way I learned there was a place called Great Slave Lake in northern Canada. The ascent and descent of the junk both got worse post-impact, of course. We were actively working to give humanity a real shot at a future, but we got serious about that precisely when we stopped imagining that future having anything to do with our home planet. The future was in the stars. Sustainability was everything, but as an aspiration. The order of the day was more as it had been forever. I knew, inescapably, that our chance wasn't in escaping Earth, but in escaping our predilection for junk and the people who would let us where we'd found ourselves, folks like my folks. I knew that if they were the ones to lead us into space, or if we made it there without them and they followed us with their wealth and their value that valued only value, there'd be no future. So we tried to take apart what they had, bit by bit, and we tried to imagine a future where sustainability wasn't just a word people used to imagine they could keep doing what they were already doing, consequences be damned, forever. We might. Still. Maybe.